I should have known you were going to do something. This is your verse right here.
The refugees are left on their own. So complicated that we leave it alone. I wonder how it feels if we could walk a mile in their shoes.
That's Craig Pruett singing.
They say that love makes the world go round. We'll build the walls instead of tearing them down. We're feeling helpless like there's nothing anybody can do. We can give a little love. You wanna make it better.
That was Craig Pruett right there. You heard. And I wasn't expecting the whole, whatever that was. So we've been, ladies and gentlemen, Craig Pruett. This is Life in a Lyric podcast, episode 2. We have spent the last hour trying to work out a few technical difficulties because we are, in fact, Gen X's.
Yeah, well, I think IT was off today too.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know, but we finally figured out a few things. And I've got all kind of cool little things. Let's see what we got here. I've got all kind of cool tools at my disposal here that let me just I'm going to play around with some of these. Here's one called that was a song that you heard coming in of Craig and I doing Give a Little Love. This one is called Feeding the Ducks. Let's see what this is.
Feeding the Ducks. Awesome.
I don't know why it's called Feeding the Ducks.
Little groove, nice little groove.
Yeah. But anyway, welcome.
R&B feel to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm here in Nashville. Craig is in Southside, Alabama. Coming to you live. This has been quite the journey to get to this point for the two of us. We have, our stories kind of intertwined over the years. Lots of things. So just kind of give you a little brief background. Craig Pruett and I have been friends since 1991. Yeah. We have been at this for a long time. Craig and I were in a music group in the early 90s, and then in the later on we kind of split ways as life kind of does from time to time, and we reconvened in the music industry a few years later, and we played some shows all over the place. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
But anyway, it's been quite the journey for Craig, and today what I really want to do is to just kind of give you guys a brief background of why Craig is here today on the podcast, and just kind of a story about his life leading up to a huge life-changing event that occurred a couple years ago that we'll talk about, and his life in music, and then overcoming quite a bit. So Craig, man, we've had some deep conversations over the years. I don't know if we'll get into those today, but I thought it would be interesting because I don't think anybody's really heard his full story. A couple years ago, his story was a lot different than it is today, leading up to a major event. So, Craig, thank you, man, for coming on.
Absolutely, dude.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, man. When you first asked me to do this, I was quite like, I've never done this before. I don't know how to do this, so I don't know what to expect. Yeah. But it's like, wow, cool. But thank you for having me. And
so let's start. We're going to start actually at the beginning. So we're going to go back in time for everybody to 1991. I was at Southside High School in Gadsden, Alabama, and this dude right here walks into our high school, and from a private school, and here he is, and he's thinking he is the coolest cat in the world, and I'm looking at him going, who is this guy? And so take me, Craig, just to that transition before we started singing, because Craig can sing. He's got a great voice. And that's how we kind of ended up in a group together. But Craig, take me real quick to how you ended up at Southside.
Well, I grew up kind of inner city kind of schools. So the difference between where I was raised and went to school coming into Southside was completely different
Oh yeah.
lifestyles. So I came with a lot more slang in my and pep in my step when I hit Southside. So I was a little
To,
different.
to put this in perspective, real quick, Southside High School in 1991 was, I would say, ethnically is about as extreme to the rural side of Alabama as you possibly could be. I mean, ethnically, I think it was probably 97% white
Yes.
kids,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
country white kids.
And I came from schools that were 95% ethnic
Yeah. So it's
outside of being Caucasian. So it was a big change for me. Um, and it was before then that I had like choir class or choral class at school.
yeah.
And I started figuring out that I might be able to sing. I really didn't know how to do it, but I had a good teacher named Rick Weaver, who's still today a professional musician and singer. He's a great songwriter too.
What music were
And
what music were you listening to in 1991?
oh my gosh, dude, a little bit of everything because I grew up on everything from Foreigner
That
to
was
listening to hip hop. 1991, I guarantee you, I was listening to Vanilla Ice. I probably listened to New Kids on the Block, and I don't care if you want to laugh at me for that, but
yeah,
I love pop music,
but it was
hip
boys.
hop, rap,
I think
Boys to Men.
it was Boys to Men that brought us together. It
I
was
believe so.
that was kind of what happened. Is It's so hard to say goodbye was like a really popular song in 1991, 1992,
Gosh, it was.
and
Yeah.
especially in 92. That was our senior year, and so we end up like in a choral class, which there wasn't a whole lot going on in this class. Let's be
There was not.
real honest.
Yeah.
I I loved our teacher. I'm not going to mention him by name, but he's still this day a friend of mine. Um, but he was also the band director, and in this class,
Good man. Very good
yeah,
man.
in this class, um, the people that were in there really wanted to sing, and it was me and you and Kevin Gillen was in there, and I think was Michael Knight in that class as well. He must have
Uh,
been.
Roger was.
Roger was
I
Michael
don't
Knight.
think Michael may have been. I don't remember honestly.
And I remember distinctively hearing this voice in that class going, "What is that?" It was something just like out of this world good. And who was it?
Kevin.
Kevin Gillen.
Yeah.
Kevin had the most amazing voice you've ever heard in your life,
Yeah.
especially at that age. And he was doing these runs that, you and I, that was a language that we couldn't speak that language. It was like,
I know.
the
Yeah.
runs were just ridiculous.
Yeah. His control at 16, 17 years old
Yeah,
was like mind blowing.
it was phenomenal. And so I think it started around a piano and that happened. And then I think it was Boys to Men. It was like, he was singing "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye," and me and you were like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is kind of cool. And we were kind of just learning harmonies at the time. I mean, we were 17, 18 years old. And God, I remember that like it was like yesterday, because that was a very pivotal point in my career. Because I think I may have had a band, but we were just a bunch of high
Yeah.
schoolers trying to learn how to play the guitar. Roger was in there. Roger could sing the low part.
Yeah.
And we ended up forming a group
Yeah.
called
Southern Harmony.
Southern Harmony.
Yep.
Southern Harmony. So, all right. So take me through, and we won't go into a great deal about that, even though we might could have the other guys on one day and really
Yeah.
dive into that. Um, were you writing songs then?
Oh, I was actually writing. Had no clue. It was really more, I think, more of poetry,
Yeah,
and I just tried to mimic a lot of different things that I was listening to at the time, but I didn't really have any, good concept of melodies, and putting together stories. So it was really just, it was just the breaking the very tip of understanding what songwriting was. I had no understanding of it at the time.
yeah,
But yes, I had several songs that I thought were songs, but looking back, I know that they were just that beginning stages of learning.
yeah.
What about you? Were you writing them back then?
I was writing, and I wouldn't. Looking back, I've even found some really, really old recordings of things that I had done that were terrible. But it's very interesting to look at those. I have audio recordings as well of us, by the way, like in the basement of my dad's house, and how we thought at at the time, like, this is awesome. And I played it for a few people since then. Listened to that, was like, Annie, really? But I mean, that was like, that was early,
Yeah.
early on, and we were still learning how to sing, how to hit harmonies and notes.
Robert, and we grew ourselves. We didn't really have coaches. We didn't
No,
have someone teaching us. So it was a trial and error basis type learning then.
yeah,
So it was good to us, and it did develop into something that was good.
yeah. And we had like, I guess, as much success as a few guys just starting out in the high school probably could have. And we played around for a little while. And I think probably one of the cooler things I remember, and this is a good memory for me too. It was I think we'd graduated high school, and your dad was down at a place in at the beach,
Panama City, yeah.
and we headed down there without, none of us had a job. We loaded up in I guess maybe in one vehicle. I can't remember. We loaded up, went down to the beach with no plans other than, hey, let's just go as a group and maybe sing along the beach or something. I don't know. And we did. And I
Yeah.
remember we would wake up. We didn't have a worry in the world. We didn't have anything other than just each other and just kind of hanging out. And we went to, there was a camp next door. I remember us going there and singing and stuff. And those were the days, because we had no obligations other than to ourselves, each other, just kind of hanging out. And
Right.
that was a great memory for me. Um,
Absolutely.
well, shortly after that, and I think, to back up real quick, all the guys in the band at the time, we ended up having to change the name of the Vocal Boys, because there was another band called Southern Harmony, and we just kind of, it made
Yeah.
sense, and
That's right.
we spelled it with a Z,
Yeah.
Vocal
Just
Boys.
like boys to men.
And we all got along really well, but as brothers do, we always we kind of had a few little arguments here and there. Would you say, Craig, that you were ever arrogant?
uh, wow. You're just going to throw me out there like that, huh? As you sit back and laugh, which is the epitome of arrogance.
Ah,
Um,
no, I
I was
remember.
I was cocky at some point. I think all of us had some cockiness to us.
No, we were.
Yes.
I remember being, and we had this van. Well, what do you call those vans? It's not like a passenger
A
van,
full
luxury
size
van.
van.
It was a luxury van.
Yeah,
But it was a
deluxe
night.
luxury van.
It was a 1982 luxury van, and it had, like, you could, if this was the steering wheel and you're driving and you need to make a left turn, you did this, you're still driving straight.
Yeah, it
It
had
had
so much play.
that much play in it. So if you needed to turn to the left, you needed to pretty much just constantly spin. So I remember that old van, and that was I remember at one point, and we're in this van on a trip. I think we're on the way to West Virginia or something, and then I think you had made Jay upset or something. He's back there punching the back of
You
the seat,
no,
or
you
is that you
always
punching?
mess that up.
It
You messed
was
that up every
some who was
time.
punching who
It
was
was
punching the seat.
Roger. It was
No.
Jay punching the back seat of Roger's seat because he was mad at Roger, not at me.
Oh, I thought it was
He was
mad at you.
mad at
Okay,
him,
that's
and
right.
Roger was going
That's
at it.
right.
And Roger would piss Jay off so bad because Roger would just laugh. The more
Yeah.
angry Jay got, the more Roger would laugh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. And it was over something about Prince lyric, "Smoke them all" or "Smoke" or something. I don't know. I hate
That was a
Jay's not
different
here.
conversation.
I hate Jay's not
That
here to
was a
defend
different
himself.
conversation.
I'll give him that
The
another
only time Jay
opportunity.
really got mad enough at me is when we were trying to do one-handed boxing with the one pair of boxing gloves, and
Yeah.
I did a jab cross and hit him with my bare fist in the mouth, and he was like, "What the?" I thought he was gonna kill me.
Oh man, well those were the days. We had a
But
lot
we
of
did
fun.
fight like brothers, man. We
Oh,
did
it's
have
all
great
good.
times, and we
Oh, we sure
grew up
did.
together during that. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. We had some good times, and we had a few members come and go over the years. And I think in 1996, we recorded our last album, which was "Same Old World." These were all songs that we had written and arranged. And I think we had an opportunity to really take our music to a different level, but I think just life, school, college, marriage, kids, things just began to mount up, and so we
Yeah.
disbanded. So from 1990, we're gonna fill in some gaps here for everybody because there's lots to talk about later. I want to fill just your life, where it went from 1996 to about 2000 what 16. So you've got a big gap there in your career. Can you just kind of fill me and everybody in on just where you went briefly on in your life at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in 1996, it come down to I had a family, and you know, supporting myself as a musician or whatever, playing and singing and performing wasn't something I could rely on to raise a family. So I had to get a job
Oh,
and I had to start working. I was trying to finish up schooling too and do that as much as possible. And it was in school that I got the draw to be in law enforcement, and I thought I could do that job really well. And I pursued that career. And in 1997, I started out as a reserve deputy in 1996. I spent some part-time shifts seeing if that was what I wanted to do, and it really took hold of me, and I could tell it was in my blood. In 1997, I got hired by the state, and went to the academy and started a long career that took me a lot of places. But
So
around, but
briefly, your resume. So you were a state trooper,
yes,
and then from there, where did it go?
from there I went into investigative division, which was at that time called ABI, the Alabama Bureau of Investigation, as an investigator. And then I did a contract with the United States Marshal Service, and I was fortunate enough to get that contract extended over and over again. And I spent 10 years as a special deputy U.S. Marshal. After that 10 years, I came back to what was now labeled SBI, State Bureau of Investigation, because our agency had a big umbrella covering change, and they changed the name of it. And so I came back to the state as an investigator and worked my last few years, headed towards retirement as a investigator.
And so that was up until just a few years ago. You were in law enforcement. Um, Before we change gears out of that, give me like, as in law enforcement, there's so many conversations that you and I've had over the years, some of your experiences. I know you can't talk about um, some of those experiences because
Oh,
some
I
of them
can
run
now.
pretty
Most of
deep.
it's all adjudicated. It's already went through court, and I'm retired, so I can kind of
Give
talk about anything I
I've
want to
I've
now.
heard so many funny stories. Just can you? I'll give you a second to rack your brain here on a few of those, because I've heard a few, and I've seen you on a few episodes of a few things here and there,
Yeah.
and I've heard, and I remember you might or might not have broken an ankle or something trying to jump a fence. Like there's certain things that I'm sure I'd love to hear, and it's some of these stories again. So I want you to think about what memory just makes you just laugh
Oh my goodness.
as an
That's
investigator
really
or in.
hard, man. There's so many that stand out funny. Um, Golly,
without without mentioning like specific names.
bro, I have experienced anything from people so drunk that they fall flat on their face standing in front of you on the side of the road trying to do
I
field sobriety tests.
I see that from a stage.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like, those are always funny to where I honestly, I've seen some really bad driving, especially I've seen a lot of funny stuff on patrol, but in investigations, the the funniest things for me are the people that do the dumb stuff that is just like, really, and you see them maybe on video failing greatly. So there's a lot of entertainment side in that. Excuse me.
how
Um,
how did you break your ankle?
why you always got to bring stuff up like that? You always have trying to make me look silly.
I
I
just
was actually pursuing a serial rapist, and actually with the Marshal Service, I was tasked with hunting fugitives, and I took off after this guy who actually managed. I guess he was just lucky enough to be looking out the window when our vehicles all hit the property, and because I was small and quick on our unit, I was always tasked with being the chase guy. The first one bailing out of the vehicle to hit the ground running. And before I could get to the back, they were already yelling, "He's out the door, he's gone," and I could see him running. And so I took off after him, and we went up a hill. This fence had a kudzu like growth through it. This was in the Birmingham area, so it's kind of a congested neighborhood. Um, and he went over the fence and fell. I could tell that he dropped low, and I thought it was my opportunity because I wouldn't. He wasn't getting distance on me, but I wasn't gaining on him either. So we were just kind of staying at the same rate. Now I thought, well, if I get over this fence really quick, I'm going to make up some ground because he's having to get up. Well, when I jumped the fence, I landed on a cinder block, like foundation block, and my left foot went into it, and it just and it made that bubble wrap sound. I didn't realize it was that bad hurt. I thought it was kind of funny.
Did you get it and run?
I thought it was kind of funny. I thought somebody probably saw me do it, so I snickered to myself. I jumped up to take off after him again, and my foot didn't work. My leg just fell out from under me, and I thought I just made somebody else laugh. So I got to try. I got up to do it again. That's when the pain shot all the way up my side, and I knew I'd done something bad. And I ended up getting hauled out of there by ambulance and having a completely trash leg for a long time.
Well, it was. I remember during this time, you'd moved around a little bit here and there. We'd remained in contact, um, but then life began to take us different directions.
Yeah,
Um, but then we kind of reconvened years later, and so
yeah,
this is where things start to change for the both of us. I started playing more,
yep.
and I was doing a lot of solo shows,
I
and
think both of us went through like a hard time too. We've
yeah,
always come together when we've
yeah,
had tough times in our lives.
yeah, and that's kind of how we ended up. I think I'd been playing solo shows around the Birmingham, Alabama area, and then I said, "Look, man, why don't you just get one of those drums that you sit on and play?" And you're like, "I know what you're talking about. It's called a cajon." And I
Yeah,
think you had a friend that had one or something. You ended up with a cajon, and then we started playing a few shows here and there. I remember
yeah,
it wasn't a ton of money, but it was. I think we had a good time doing it.
yeah.
And then
We loved it.
from there, we had a couple different transitions. From I remember we went from the cajon to eventually we started playing with a band, and we really needed not the cajon with a band. We needed a live drum set. So Craig gets a drum
Yeah,
set and starts practicing around and playing, and then but Craig can sing too. And I remember like it was hard for him to be just playing drums and singing. I needed him out front. So then I think maybe for a show or two we attempted a keyboard. That didn't work. It was like it
yeah.
just I can't remember
I
which show we
faked it
played.
very well.
Yeah, I think did you mute the whole keyboard or anything, or did you just? I can't even
No, I
remember what
did.
we
I
did.
did a lot of. I did a lot of in and out on that. I'm like
Well,
either in or I'm out. I'm in. I know this part, so I'm in. The next part, I'm out.
yeah. Well, I do that a
Yeah,
lot too on acoustic live. Sometimes I forget where I'm at and just kind of lay out, but that didn't work. So then we went. I put him, I guess back in at the drums again, and we did that for a long time. Around this time, this is by 2000. So for 2016, for about 4 or 5 years, Craig and I had been playing some shows, and really progressing. Like things were really good. I was starting to play in Nashville a bit, and Craig had come to
yeah,
Nashville to play. We had been writing a lot of songs here and there, and I have a phone full of ideas that we had started.
yeah.
Um, and that was a lot of fun. But I
How
remember
many hours
distinctly.
do you think we spent writing songs
Well,
together?
unfinished songs, there's no telling
Unfinished,
because
yeah.
yeah, because
Hours.
still have so many right now. There's one that I really, what I'm talking about
Don't say
too.
it. I know. Don't say it. I know you
But
want to.
yeah, but oh, yeah, that's one of those we just got to get to. Um, and so things were rolling pretty good. I mean, you'd remarried, a couple years prior, have an amazing
Yeah,
wife. We love Sarah
yeah,
to death. And kind of like me, you have a blended family, and Craig and our families have gone on vacation a couple times, and that's always
yeah.
been fun. We've gone to, I went to Myrtle
Been
Beach
so
with the
good.
family on the beach, and lots of cool things. And my wife and Craig and his wife have gone on several trips together. I was going to try to put a few photos up, but um, I, I'm a Gen X. I couldn't figure this stuff out. So, um,
I understand too.
but things were rolling smooth. I mean, things were good.
Yeah,
Craig and I both were we were a couple years away from retirement, and time progressed. We've been playing some shows, and then um, in 2020, I think it was 2020. COVID had just kind of come along, and Craig and I were playing a show in Nashville, Tennessee. Uh, Me, you, and Nick we just played a show, and we're driving.
2021.
Was it 2021?
Yep.
And so we're on our way back from the show, as we always did on the road together. And I was still living in Birmingham at the time. I was about to finish up my last year teaching. And Craig calls me after he gets in the car and he's on his way home. Now hang on. Was this the same day you got out of your car and chased a dude? Do you remember what I'm talking about? You were in Coleman.
Yes.
Was it the same? It
Yes, it
was a
was
different, the
the
same
same day.
day,
Yeah, it was.
the same day. So he calls me, which by the way, this has happened more than one occasion. A real quick story. We're at an Alabama football game, and
Roll
this came
Tide.
up the other day. We were tailgating, and there were friends of ours there. We're tailgating. The family's there. We've got the tent set up on the quad at the University of Alabama, and Craig is there. And I walk off somewhere, and a friend of ours, Sean Morrison, comes up to me and goes, "Hey, you got to come. Craig's got some dude pinned out here. Hurry!" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he's just like tackling him. He's down on the ground." So I go out there, and sure enough, Craig's over got this dude like pinned down to the ground right outside of our tent, just holding him down. I wasn't there to see what happened. I guess he made you mad. I don't know what what
No,
happened.
that's not
Just
what happened. He didn't make me mad.
drunk.
He was a very dangerous person because he was drunk, and he was a huge guy, and what I saw, my observant self, I see this big, large guy staggering down the sidewalk, and he just walks up into the people's tent area right next to us, and he just plops down in a chair. And his family and all these people are like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And he's just like, blah, 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 in his drunk stammer. And they start telling him, "You got to go. You got to leave."
Yeah.
And he didn't want to get up. So I guess the one father figure in that group was like, "Sir, you need to get your butt up." And next thing you know, they're having words.
Yeah.
So this guy gets up, and I'm watching thinking they're about to fight. He gets up, and he starts walking away. And then that same dad figure is one of those guys, I guess he can't let somebody walk away without him getting the last word. And he says something, I don't remember what he says. And then I see this guy that was walking away just stop. And I'm like, "Oh, crap." And he turns around and comes back with here's the attitude. Well, that's fine. I'm thinking still, I'm going to watch a fight. But then it hits me. There's a woman standing there with one of those double strollers that's got 2 infant children in it. And she's right in the line. So I'm already moving that way to try to get her out of the way. But before I can get there, this big burly guy shoves him into the stroller, turns the stroller over. And at that point, I'm thinking, I got to take care of this now. And I grabbed the guy and I took him down. Just real quickly.
Yeah.
And got on top of him and locked him out. And then just told people to call 911 and get the police out there to take him to jail.
Yeah,
and they did. He came in.
There's a crowd standing around watching everybody. Like it's crowded on the quad.
I can't believe it didn't make it on YouTube.
I'm sure it did somewhere.
And there was people filming the whole thing. But yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I've lived through with you, is listen to some of those stories, and then on that particular day. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. This is going to end part 1. This is going to be a 2-part podcast. The second part is going to be where I want you to tell your story from your eyes, and I'm going to tell it from mine as well. And
Okay.
And just kind of, so people can kind of get a grip as to how you are actually here with us right now. So that's going to end part 1. Please make sure that you check my YouTube page for part 2. My interview with Craig Pruett, the most amazing story of overcoming something that you will probably hear. And be sure to check out, because this is the biggest part of this podcast is really what's yet to come here. So thank you guys very much.
We love a neighbor long as he's the same color. We love